welcome to 0100 Impact Talks, a space where we dive deep into the concept of impact in the private equity and venture capital landscape, exploring insights from both LPs and GPs. I am Laura Iriarte, Head of PR and Communications at 0100 Conferences, and I'll be your host. I am very happy today because we have Lidia Aviles, Dr. Lidia Aviles, actually, a renowned expert in sustainability, innovation, and strategic partnerships as an ambassador for the EU Climate Pact since 2021 and top global advisor at the IAOTP. She's driving global efforts to build a sustainable future. Lidia is the founder of and CEO of Alston, focusing on the SDG 17 partnerships for the goals, and a partner at SIGF. She also serves on the board of SICAC. Maybe you can explain us later about all of this, and where she's contributing to impactful sustainability initiatives worldwide. She's also an accomplished author. Lidia has written AI for Sustainability and co-authored AI for Economy, exploring the vital role of technology in sustainable development. And she previously was the sustainability leader and digitalization manager at Sky Tanking and director of operations at the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, shaping progress in aviation and energy storage. So, thank you very much, Lidia, for taking your time to be here and also to teach us more about what's going on with AI. So, but before we go further, I just want to know about you. No, Lidia and I, we met in Amsterdam last year. And since then, we follow each other. Actually, I follow her. And
we connected.
But she's been very busy. So I just want to know a little bit about you, your personal journey. You're currently based in Belgium, but I'm not sure if you were born and raised there because you speak Spanish perfectly. So tell us a little bit about that, and then a little bit more about how did you end up being an AI expert and venture capital and involved in sustainability.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, indeed, we met in Amsterdam and pretty busy, but actually I think we had a good time and a very long conversation into the different topics that actually are shaping now. And I think also, it's not like you followed me. I think we connected because we clicked very well into the landscape, right? So it's it was nice. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity. So you mentioned a little bit of different things. Let's see. Let's start with one of them, probably. So I was not born in Belgium. I was born in El Salvador. At the time, the country was famous for the wrong things, I think. Now it has shaped a little bit the image with new governments and stuff. I recently visited first time in so many years, and it was the first time ever I enjoyed the country, which is a thing.
Yeah. How many years did you get? How many years? What was your last trip until this one?
Well, I used to visit every 2 or 3 years, but I never lived there specifically. I left when I was 4 and I grew up in different countries. I grew up in between Nicaragua, Massachusetts, Florida. Well, it's one country, yes, but I used to visit only just for specific things. And I never really enjoyed the country until recently. So it was kind of a cool thing, a first time experience somehow. But, So growing up in different places, so my father was a reverend, so his mission was in Nicaragua. So, grew up there. And then with my mom, we moved to Massachusetts for a while when I was a teenager. So I ended up doing my high school over there. And then I arrived in Belgium 15 years ago. So Belgium is the country that I lived the longest, which is very, ironic. And therefore, I'm Belgian. But yeah.
It's weird because I lived the longest in Chile,
Okay.
But even though I love Chile, I've never really, felt like Chilean. Although if I say if I have to go back home, I think it will be Chile and not Bolivia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't have that. Yeah, I don't have that for specifically, but I remember having that feeling for so many years, thinking where is home, and I will think Massachusetts. But then recently, in the last years when I travel, I don't feel like it represents what I remember.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, maybe it's going to be as such, or maybe it's just the nostalgia that you create with, you know, like at your childhood or wherever. So yeah, that's one of the questions. Sorry.
Like, you know, but I love that. The idea is to make it like, we want to know about you. Well, I want to know about you. And people
Thank you. Yeah. I think it's a millennial thing, right? Like this thing, the millennials I came close and encounter, they always, I think there is something about like, oh, I was born here but I grew up there and now I live here. I think it's very millennial generation type of thing.
that we started moving, that we didn't, I mean, I think it makes sense what you're saying, because it's not like it's with us, the whole not being like stick into a job or a place started, you know, like we started with this like need to move, to visit, to just change jobs as many times as necessary, you know, and stay and
molding.
Somewhere. Yeah.
We feel like we need to grow and evolve and etc. I think it's also because we are the generation that experienced the bridge, right? So we had our childhood without technology and suddenly teenage years with technology. So that kind of created kind of like a breakthrough, and we got used to it very fast. Breakthroughs are normal for us, and you know, other generations might not feel the same as we do. For us, it's like, oh yeah, what's the big deal? A new, you know, like a new technology is around the corner. But for our parents, it was not, I think, the case. And then for the new generation, they are so used to it that they don't know that there was a big struggle just to get there. So it's kind of like this breakthrough, I don't know, habit that we have, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So then you moved to Belgium. So it's like you did your whole professional career there, right?
I will say so. I moved very young. I think my world into the AI innovation, etc. It started more like in Massachusetts, if I can say that, because at the time when I was in high school, I remember like everybody speaking about coding, and it was like you know, now everybody's speaking about AI, something like that, and everybody started like doing that, and it was like you used to get together just to learn how to code, like a I don't know, like to have fun. And Massachusetts per se, I don't know if it was only happening there. The Boston was like the place that people will go to cafes just to talk about that.
I love it. It didn't go. That didn't happen to me. When I was a teenager, we were not talking about story in Bolivia, so I don't think like we cared about.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, probably was the same in El Salvador, and I don't know, probably in Nicaragua as well. But I remember Massachusetts. I was there, so it's the only thing I can talk about because obviously I was there. But it was the case. So I remember like initiated as we say, right? I initiated into this innovation technology stuff very early, not by choice, but because I was there. And the feeling of, I think, I mean, in the last, I don't know, like 7 years or 10 years, people started speaking about sustainability more and more, and you know, ESG and so on. And now people are speaking a lot about AI. And then in the future, I mean, not that long in the future, people will start speaking, or already started speaking, about quantum, and then, you know, hybrid intelligence and so on. So that was the feeling I was having at the time with coding. And as a teenager, like you get very enthusiastic about it. So I started like, I mean, my generation that was in Massachusetts, we all know how to code. We are not like the big specialists or any of that. Like I personally never built anything except a MySpace page, but it was like a good idea, you know, like what was happening, and then, you know, like you could experience some of that.
And when you moved to Belgium, did you feel that you were like ahead of what was going on here in terms of
yes,
technology?
Yes, I remember I used to click faster or better with the younger generation than my generation. So the people that were here, still, I think, in a way, being ahead of the technology and so on, or early adopters, you know, like are not my generation in this region, are the youngest ones. Yeah. So yeah, it was a big clash for me.
Yeah, I get you. And how did you like? Okay, so that's how you kind of like started or into this whole AI world, no?
In the air, the ambulance.
We can hear it.
Okay, so well, I started first in the sustainability realm, and that was just because of the I take it more like a stewardship, you know. I don't give in into the fear of climate change. I know, like I think there are like the experts for that. But in my case, what I take from the mission, it's more like a stewardship in the sense of this is my planet and I want to make, I want to make the best of the resources. I want to take care of the resources as if it was, like as if you do with your home, like if my roof is, I don't know, cracking down or something like this, I'm not going to take the roof of my neighbor just to use mine. Like it's a that feeling. I think, but in my case, it came more from the stewardship. Like as I mentioned before, like my father was a reverend and my mom is a doctor for natural medicine. So it's more like the resources out there to be kind of like used correctly and respect for nature and all of that. And growing up in between Nicaragua and in Florida, Massachusetts, etc., I get to see a lot of natural disasters. And I remember experiencing like a few hurricanes and so on. So you don't want to mess up with nature. But those are the things that, I completely like, you have to be you have to give much respect as possible. Like that's so I started from sustainability and then it kind of like naturally speaking, organically evolved into innovation. And because innovation obviously evolved into AI. So it's kind of more like a progress, getting there ahead of like what's next. And then usually it's like thinking about it before it's out there.
And how did you end up in venture capital?
So about, let's see, now about 6-7 years, I was working for aviation and then my name started popping up apparently for investment bankers across different regions. And I started being contacted by them. At the time, I honestly was not aware that much how that worked. I was younger, obviously. Not that young anymore, but I was still, like more into the corporate development and business development, which was my thing. And then when I started being contacted by them, like they started contacting me and asking me like what was the, like the next generation and so on. And then I was not even aware that I was, like in between like the lines of I cannot be an advisor depending where you are, where you're from, and all these things. I was like completely off. So I started
giving him like you were just giving your point of view.
Exactly, yeah.
For free. No.
No, not really, because they kind of like hire me as freelancer to understand better. But I was not aware that my name was popping up because of AI was already out there somewhere, like working it. And I started noticing when I was reading reports, like, like these big institution reports and so on. And then when I was reading books and I was like, as a writer, I felt like this book is so well written that it's almost impossible to be human written. The repetitive and the double sense. And as a writer, you identify these things. Like you're like, who is doing this and repeating the same concept like 4 times in different wordings? And then you start seeing the same words in different books also. And I was like, that's so strange. And then, so I started identifying this. I think it was 2014 or something like that. And then it's actually when it was the breakthrough of it. So
what books were written?
Yeah, like I didn't know. I read books in general, so I'm not gonna tell you like one. Yeah, it was books reports.
Who's cheating?
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I spotted something, and then I started doing my own research, and then because at the same time, in parallel, these investment bankers started contacting me, I was like, okay, that's a little bit strange, right? And then just getting into the conversation a little bit faster, it happened to be that my name was popping because of the knowledge of technology and what it's ahead, and like I used to write about it, and like the educational part, blah blah blah, all these things. So the AI was doing its job before.
No, but then you wrote 2 books, right? And I think that's why I wanted to talk to you about AI, because you talk about AI for economy, no, and then AI for sustainability. No, I think first AI for sustainability and then AI for economy, right?
Exactly.
So what's the current status of AI? Because as an investment opportunity, because it's a buzzword type of right now, like everyone wants to invest in AI, but what is a good AI investment?
Yeah, well, that will vary, right? I think it will vary depending on the ticket. So it's like, how much do you have to invest in, and what is the minimum that you can invest into a strategy? I think that's specifically one of the I don't know, like the right answer right there. But just to give a little bit more spice into it, it's like people, there was a moment, I think last year and this year, like a lot of people were investing into tools, right? And like AI tools. And the difference of AI tools and AI as such will be more about like how AI implements everything and not how AI becomes part of something. So it's kind of like the own DNA of AI on its own. So like, we're talking about molecules, we're talking about hardware, we're talking about, like connectivity, satellite, all of that. So that would be like
tickets as well, no? Much higher tickets than AI as a tool.
Usually, yes.
Yeah. And where are
that? Well, we have some of those happening in Europe, right? Like I think the European Union has put up some very interesting projects publicly for Horizon about AI in general. We have it for transport, etc. But then when I don't know, like in our investment strategy, we're also looking at those things, obviously, because we work closely with different developers that are, doing their thing, scientists and so on. But there is like the good investment when we go back to the topic, it's more about like what's ahead in the future. I mean, recently, I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't know if you saw it, but OpenAI mentioned that now on ChatGPT, you can already integrate reminders and etc. So that's like a lot of reminders, task lists, and things like that. So when you consider these things, like how many companies were actually leveraging only that, so, and not to mention everything else, right? Like we already know that designer is kind of like went to a tube and accountings and so on. I was recently looking at some of the developments that I did back in 2018 or 2019, I think. I will send you later the image and talk about a little bit the data and connectivity and blockchain and how it's like impacting all the industries and how it will impact in the industries. And actually we are like going into that direction. Like at some point, all the industries are going to be completely dominated by. And when I mean dominated, I'm not talking about like resilient. It's more like, so what are you doing? But there is a good thing to put in the topic, and it's something that is called hyper intelligence. And hyper intelligence is the necessity of humankind into the AI. So AI working with humanity is what eventually it's called hyper intelligence. And this is something, it's the next step actually.
And how far are we from that? Because in the end, that's like, so far who have been saying, no, like AI, it's not human, right? So there are many things that a human brain can do that AI cannot do, like emotions, like empathy and all these things, So when you talk about hybrid intelligence, like how close are we to it and what does it mean exactly?
Well, we are already at the edge of that. And there are already trials happening and already like pilot projects and so on. Specifically for transport and security, those are the ones that have the human component. And it's very interesting, like how much we need people in professionals in the social sciences for that, which is very ironic because in the last 15 years, people with social sciences were like put aside for technology, like, yeah, this is not a big deal. But now we are going back to, it's kind of like a cycle. It's not like we are all important in whatever we study, like I think. But this cycle part is transitioning into the necessity of like having this social science human condition in the center of it. And it's also like, what we have discussing about AI by design, and also like AI by design, it has to be human centered. Otherwise, what's the point, right? It's like we are creating things. And this is something like, a lot of people discuss like about how it could be dangerous and etc. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it could be dangerous, but nobody's actually doing it like that. Like who's going to do that against yourself? It's not really the case. It might happen as an accident, right? But it's not what people are actually doing. And then this integration of hybrid intelligence at the end, it's a little bit like the end goal. When we are getting there, I think we're going to be ready by 2030 probably.
And do you feel that the funds right now, because there are a lot of funds that claim that they only invest in AI, right? Mm-hmm. So the question is, how prepared is the industry to actually invest in AI, not only as a tool, right? But to invest in initiatives that will actually like be more meaningful. So how do you feel from the conversations that you have and what you hear? I mean, where are we? Especially here in Europe, right? Because I think that here we are big behind compared to the US.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are two parts, right? Like, I think it's one is like, there are a lot of experts out there. I think very good experts. I have a lot of colleagues that are, very into, like, they have their teeth into the topic and the developments, etc. But we also have like the double or like the double coin problem is like, not all these experts are working for the funds, right? And that's the disassociation of partnership. I think one of the problems that we have in investment, as any other sector, is that everybody works in silos. So if you're not, in a way of saying, if you're not someone who knows how to, if you don't have 20 years in investment, then you don't belong to the sector, because otherwise you are just something else, like, like a cockroach or whatever. But it happens the same in the other sectors. Like, if you don't have 20 years in whatever, then you're not expert. And that's kind of like the biggest problems that we have right now. And specifically in Europe, I think everybody's too proud to work together and to say, like, we actually need this new kid, or we actually need someone in the other sector that has nothing to do with us. And this point of view kind of like helps to break through different things. And that's the regional aspect. I think that Europe right now is working on that. And they have, like, put out a lot of opportunities for this to happen. And now, like, in the quotas, we also have like the integration of different professionals into the different aspects of whatever tender or project it needs to happen. So in the investment part, when they are claiming that they're only investment in the AI, sometimes they have, for example, an engineer, or that, it's a good in Python, etc. But then it's like, and then the rest are only in finance, but then you don't have someone who is actually in the strategy, as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or someone who is in the regulatory part, or someone who knows or understands a little bit more of the public affairs, or how it's happening to the regulations, or, how is this integrated into the new powers that are in the dynamics of the world, and how we're going to partner with them, etc. This is kind of like, the bubble has to burst at some point into realization of, we need each other, and this is the reason. So claiming that they only invest in AI, but they don't have all these experts in house, it's a little bit like complicated. And if the investors are blind into what it used to be before, then I think that's a little dangerous for themselves, right?
How profitable in time can be investing in AI as a tool?
As a tool?
Yeah.
Probably like I think this will be one of the last years, maybe now and 3 years, depending, because another thing is like, sometimes you evolve and you might not use it in the region that you develop it, right? And then sometimes you use it in a different region, then it might not be as evolved as yours, which happens a lot. So that could potentially be the case. But I think by 2030, everything is going to be completely different as we think. And 5 years in investment, it's not that long.
And as an EU expert, because you evaluate cutting edge AI projects, how do you what do you look for when you are evaluating project, and what separates this true innovation with mere applications?
Well, as an evaluator specifically, we literally have the set of requirements and so on that the EU is looking for, depending of the strategy of the region or the country, wherever the project is. And then you have to see it that way. But as the expert part, or what I bring to the table, is more about, is this technology actually possible, or is this technology actually happening? What is the status of this technology, or how this integrates into the strategy of Europe itself? That's one of the things. We also have the experts kind of rotate into different phases of the projects. And in some of the phases, they, assess the competitivity, and now more than before, obviously. And before it used to be more like assessing what we have in house. But now we have to look outside, right? Because we have the big issue. But all of that has been a set of requirements. So it's kind of like, I think we look ahead into the future, what this technology is becoming to, or how this will actually help the transition in general for digital and I mean, sometimes energy, etc. Like right now, the projects are not independent into one sector. Now the projects are interdependent of different sectors.
Yeah. But before, I think I'm going to go a bit out of scope here, but before you were mentioning that you wouldn't develop something that it's going to harm you, right? And unfortunately, as humans, I think we would. No?
Am I here? Yes.
Great to tell you, but yes, I think we
Riley.
So how do you think, because AI and cybersecurity, how related they are and how developed is cybersecurity to actually be able to, I don't know, overcome whatever challenges or I don't know, the dangers that may come from AI?
Yeah. It's like the human condition. Do you bleed? I think the cybersecurity is one of those very tricky things, right? Like cybersecurity is one of the ones who had kind of like launched the campaign of human center because of that. And then cybersecurity in the sense of like, okay, in between the digital assets or the digital equipment, etc. It's one of the things, or the data breach and so on. But when we think further, I think it's a little bit more, because it's even like the scanning of your region, right? When we discuss a little bit larger scales into things, it's like now we know which region, as an example, it's more fertile than the other one, simply because of cybersecurity breach. And it's not really about data anymore. It's more about like, or the data as we know it, but it's more about like like a different type of so many different technologies, sensorials, again, satellites, etc. So it's very complex. It's not just, it's not just like the usual guard in the front gate who's like, let me check your bag and that's it. No, I think it's more complex than that. And so we are not building something, or at least it's not the idea of building something that could be harmful. But at the same time, everything we build, it has double arrow,
Yeah.
So whatever reads can also write. We have to remember that. So if something is in a sensorial way, if something is attracting or taking information out of you, let's imagine something very simple, right? When we go to the gym and we have this app that's telling you how many steps you're doing, etc. It's like, you gotta be careful, like what it also means, that because it's reading you, but the reading part, it's the into the frequency. That means that there is an open frequency also to write on you. And then we when we discuss this, for example, the algorithm, like you're checking things online and then it's like it's reading you into that sense, right? So if we go in a larger scale, cybersecurity, such, that also means the same, and this is just normal. It's like, when we are kids, everything in technology, it's a mimic of nature.
Okay. So it's very complicated. Basically,
it is.
That's what I understood from all this. Complicated to keep to follow up, and be like updated, and it's also like about trusting us, and trust what we do is for good and not for bad, Yeah, and also and the way cybersecurity works is also going to change, right? That's but yeah, well.
But this is why hybrid intelligence is coming to play. So this is a reminder, right? Like why this is important.
Yeah, especially because if it has like this whole human input, it makes it even harder, right? Because the real issues with cybersecurity are humans. I mean, yes, I mean the like I don't know, any leak or anything that happens is because someone didn't do something, So I don't know, but I think just to wrap up a little bit, you mentioned some stuff about the fund, no, SIGF, but can you please explain a bit more? No, you focus on climate tech, transportation, and infrastructure, right? Yeah. How do you define your investment strategy, and what kind of technologies do you do you have in your portfolio?
Everything and nothing. No, so yeah, well, when we say climate tech, we're talking about like things that are helping the transition, like for example, like energy, like these new technologies that are advancing the energy transition into, like into making it more less dependent of fossil fuel, but also like more integrated into the different things, right? It's like we have developed so many different possibilities for, as an example, for energy that we don't need anymore to burn fossil fuel for that. And it's not anymore about like just because it's CO2 reduction or anything. It's just simple math. It's like why to do all that, circlet into, and we can just simply have it here as an example. But then we also have like a transport and so on. And right now, for example, we are, I don't know if I can take the bite here, but like we are expecting to close one of the biggest actually in our portfolio, and it hopes to be, or it ends to be the next generation for train transport. And this is the interesting part. In SIGF, we concentrate into next generation technologies, but that are also transitional. And what do I mean by that is like, we have the investment thesis as we take part of, like we help everything. We are not the simple team that, it's never simple, but we're not, the typical team that we say like, okay, we're going to take your money and then let's wait until that happens. No, we are actually active roles into making it happen. And it doesn't come from the proud of saying like, oh, I want this to work that way. It comes from the different, like expert analysis into like, we know that this is needed here and this is needed there. So let's just, put it out there and connect the dots to help the region, to help ourselves, to help everybody. So the idea, it's more active, proactive, and it's not just like this, the typical sit back into the thing. So far, that's how we concentrate. So we have all these technologies in portfolio when all of them have AI integration. So
Virtual. Have to, right? Otherwise,
as you can imagine.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly. And, but it's also like this hybrid part into the transitional part I mentioned before is like, these technologies can work right now good as with everything we have, but they can also transition into the next generation without all these things that we know that we have right now. So in this case, we're talking about fossil fuel, but this can transition into that, but it can go different ways too. And that's how we also like, infrastructure, sustainable construction, and so on. Yeah. Those are kind of like the things.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think we ran out of time. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to mention that I haven't asked. I don't know about you, about your expertise, about your upcoming projects or anything.
Well, we have, well, I would like to remember, like, obviously everyone that is listening, that to get in contact with us if they want to see our portfolio. That would be something, like amazing to have for them, but also for us, obviously. Like I recently was celebrating a personal milestone into the career because I do strategic foresight, and this, I got overwhelmed with a lot of messages, and so I decided to make a post on that because, the people trust me. And then it was like, it's nice to see that things that you kind of like, I don't know, maybe I've been just very lucky to see it happening. I don't think so, but well, it's a discipline, right? So it takes a lot of work to actually manage, but these are the things that, I put into the table and I bring to the table with the investment strategy. Like, we don't come into the decision of taking a portfolio just because it's nice. And that, hopefully doesn't break anyone's heart. But at the same time, it's like whatever we take in the portfolio is because it has like this future, approach, expectations. So that's something that, like it's a trust that we have earned. And we all have like, in the team, we all have like different aspects into making that happen. So that's like, I feel proud, but at the same time honored to be in that team. It's amazing.
Yeah, so you have a portfolio that's very, very strong, like you are very confident about it.
Yes. And it has gone through, like all the different classes just to be sure that this is exactly what we are looking for. And yeah, and we found them.
Well, perfect. Thank you very much, Lydia. It was great having you. I'm changing the name now. I just want to talk about the impact talks, not ESG and impact, because I think everything is related, and ESG is very technical.
Yes.
What is yes, right?
I think it's integrated and it's a STEM, right?
Yeah. So I think from now we're just gonna be talking about impact talks. So thank you very much. It was great having you, and I hope we meet in Amsterdam or somewhere else. This year. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Before we go, just a quick reminder, click the bell icon on Spotify to get notifications for our new episodes, and visit our website at 0100conferences.com to check out our upcoming events across Europe.